everyone, this is Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter, and I am here with a card project for you. Today I'm going to be using this die set by We Are Memory Keepers. This is the Nesting Balloons die, and you can see that those pattern papers that I have there, those are from We Are Memory Keepers also. They're from the Hip Hip Hooray and the Inked Rose 6x6 paper pads. And I just thought that they were some fun patterns to use, so I grabbed those both out of the stack. I'm going to start by cutting these pattern papers down to fit on the front or just be smaller than the front of my card. So I'm going to cut them to 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches long, and that'll give me just inside the A2 size card. I'm going to cut a window in the front of these pattern pieces because I'm going to be making a shaker card out of both of these. And I'm just going to cut them both at one time, so I'm just securing them together with a piece of Post-it tape. And then I'll stick my die onto there kind of at an angle and then use the Post-it tape again to secure it to the pattern papers so that I can make sure that it stays in place while I run it through my die cutting machine. So I have my Evolution die cutting machine and I have the Genius platform. I'm going to place that paper and die. That's going to be blade side up, and then I'll put my A plate right over that and just crank it through my die cutting machine. And this cuts it no problem through both of those layers, as you're going to see here. Once I run it through my die cutting machine, I'm going to carefully remove that Post-it tape and the die from the pattern pieces of paper. And those inside pieces that you can see, those positive pieces, I'm going to set aside and use on another card project. Now, because this is a shaker card, these window pieces do need a backer. So I'm just using a little Nina White cardstock. I'm cutting it to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, so it's just a teeny bit smaller than those window pieces on the front. And I'm making 2 cards, so you're seeing me do everything kind of in duplicate here. Now this is my card base. They're cut to 4 1/4 by 11, and then I'm just going to score those both at 5 1/2 to make an A2 top folding card, and then I'll just press them down with my bone folder. Now I'm trying to decide here whether I want to use a piece of clear acetate or vellum for the back part of my window. And I went ahead and settled on the vellum just because I thought it would soften the items behind it and kind of give it a more ethereal look. So I cut the vellum down, and now I'm just securing it to the back of those balloon window pieces with a little bit of Tombow Mono multi-glue, and I'm just going to secure that there. And then I'm going to take some foam adhesive. Now I'm using the roll here because I'm going to be using quite a bit of it, and I'm going to cut it down the center so that it's quite narrow, because around the edge of that window piece I want to make sure it's not hanging off the edge. And when I started hearing this down, you're going to see me put these pieces all around the balloon shape, and I'm going to make sure that as I move on to the next piece that those are touching, because that's what's going to keep my sequins or my confetti inside of that balloon area. So as I'm putting these together, there's no gaps between the foam adhesive. And I'll work my way around, and then finally when I got that all kind of sealed in that balloon shape, I'm going to put some foam adhesive around the edge just to hold the whole thing up and support the corners of this piece. So now that I have that done, it's time to add some twine to the front of this. I thought it would be fun to have a little piece of string look like it was actually tied to the balloon. So I brought in a piercing mat. That's that black thing you saw under there, and this is my Tim Holtz craft pick, and I'm just piercing holes on either side of that knot portion of the balloon, and that's going to allow me to thread my twine through and make it look like it's really tight on there. In order to get this twine through these little holes, you can use one of 2 things. You can use a big embroidery needle, or you can use these floss threaders. Now, I get these from the dentist or from the drugstore, and because all of my kids have braces, we just happen to have them. So I'm just threading that floss through the loop, and then I'm going to use this just like a needle and bring it up from the bottom of that balloon through that hole. Now, it's a little difficult because I have a double layer of twine here, but once I get it through, it's okay. You just want to be careful that you're not ripping your paper. And once I get it all threaded up and through there, I can just tie it in a knot and trim down the one end. Now the end on the right side I'm going to leave a little bit long because I'm going to let that trail off. And now it's time to fill the shaker card with lots of fun stuff. Now I'm using sequins here. Some are from Simon Says Stamp, some are from Studio Calico, but I thought it would be fun also to use these wood veneer stars from Studio Calico and put those into my shaker card as well. And now that I have it all filled, I'm going to remove the backer. Now I will say I wish I would have used a double layer of foam on this particular one because the wood veneer is a little bit thick and it didn't move quite as much as I'd like it to. And I did use a double layer on the second card. Now before I seal this up with the back piece, I'm going to use a little bit of this multi-matte medium to put some of these sequins on that backer piece so that when the card is actually standing up, there will still be some sequins kind of floating in that balloon. So I'm just putting little random dots, and then I'm going to use my Lifestyle Crafts Quick Stick here to adhere those onto those little dots of adhesive, and I'm just kind of randomly sprinkling them here and there, some of the gold and some of the mint colored ones as well. Once I get those kind of all scattered in the background, I'm going to go ahead and put that backer piece onto my window piece, and this is going to seal all the guts up inside of that, so there won't be any leaking in my card. And you can see there how fun that is with all those sequins and wood veneer pieces floating in there. So I decided it would be fun to have this thread kind of loop around, this twine loop around. So I'm just using that matte multi-medium again and just putting a few dots, and then I'm going to shape it with my finger into kind of a loop. And in order to keep it in place while it dries, I'm just going to set one of my blocks over that and let that dry. While my twine is drying, I'm going to go ahead and work on a sentiment piece. I'm going to emboss it in gold embossing powder, so you see me just prepping the surface there with a little EK Success powder tool. The greeting I chose is from the Simon Says Stamp Handwritten Greetings stamp set, and I have that linked over at my blog. So I'm just inking that up in some Versamark ink, and then I'm going to stamp it onto the scrap piece of white cardstock. You can see it's actually got a torn edge and everything. That's okay, I can use it as a scrap. I'm going to cover it with some gold embossing powder and then just heat set it with my heat tool to make a sentiment piece. I went ahead and trimmed it into a banner shape, and then I'm going to attach it to the front of my card using some foam adhesive right there at the bottom of that. Once I have the sentiment attached, I'm going to take the whole front of this card and adhere it to the card base that I created earlier. And then to finish off this card, I thought it would be fun to add some more sequins onto the front. So I just have my craft mat here, and I'm going to squirt a little bit of that multi-matte medium onto that. And I have my quick stick again. It's a little loose there, so I'm just tightening it up. And I'm going to dip these sequins into the matte medium and just add a few of these scattered onto the front of the card. And that just brought a little more color because the sequins behind the vellum are so muted. I just thought it would be fun to add a little more color and brightness to the front of this card. And this really was the perfect finishing touch for this card. Now I created the second card and I did everything pretty much the same. I used this paper tray ink stamp set called Think Big Favorites number 13 to emboss this greeting, this happy birthday greeting, on a piece of vellum. And I wanted to show you how I attached this vellum to the front of the card because I did something a little bit different than what I normally do. So you see me just kind of trimming this into a banner end, and I'm going to attach it to the front of the card, but I don't want my adhesive to show. So I'm going to start out by putting just a strip of tape runner adhesive along what will be the left side of that vellum strip, and then I'm just going to get a few little dots right behind the embossing of this matte medium, and I'm just going to sprinkle it along behind there. And then I'm going to take this piece and fold it around the whole card front and attach that little strip of tape runner adhesive onto the back. And then I'm going to push that multi-matte medium onto the front of the card. And I'm just creasing it with my fingernail to make sure it stays on there really well. And you can see that that attaches it really nicely, and I have no adhesive showing on the front of my card. And then that end just kind of hangs free, which makes it a little bit fun. So you can see there is my second card all finished. I'm going to bring them both in here and show you them side by side. I think the second one is my favorite, but you can let me know which one you think you like more. I just think I like the colors on the second one and the sentiment so much better. But anyway, I did want to show you one option that if you don't have sequins, something that you can do to make a little bit of filler for your shaker cards. I've just grabbed a bunch of different small paper punches from my stash, some hearts, some stars, and you see my We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper over there too. So I'm just taking a piece of colored cardstock that matches, and I'm just punching a whole bunch out, even with the hole punch on my corner or my crocodile, I'm sorry, not my corner chomper, you can make little circles. So there's some confetti that you could fill and make on your own for your shaker cards as well. So here's a look again at the 2 cards that I created today. You can get information on all of the products used in these projects over at my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. It's also in the description below at YouTube. And don't forget, anytime you shop at shopweare.com, which is the We Are Memory Keepers shopping site, you can use the coupon code GLITTER to save 20% off your order. Thanks for watching and have a fabulous day.